77, road to a million. It's crazy to think. Keep saying that because it continues to boggle my mind. We're already on day 77, and I haven't made a single dollar. I'm playing. I have made a lot of improvement from day one, as many of you can see who have been keeping up with this journey. You can see how far I've come from starting at the beginning of this year for you guys. And now, mid-March, seeing how far I've come and how quickly something can change, it's actually quite impressive. We have the power to change a lot quicker than I think we care to consider, at least than I used to care to consider. This is going to be way too hot. It's funny. It really is quite funny. Because we can change massively in less than 90 days. Still have 14 days left, which is kind of crazy to think, until we are at that 90-day mark. And that's essentially what this is like, you want to change, you can go from sad, miserable, hating what you're doing, to enjoying living your life again. Just kind of the crazy thing to think. And clearly, like, there's still going to be ups and downs. I'm not saying that there won't be. Like this morning, it took me a while to get started with this day because I was processing other feelings and emotions. So it took some time for me to be able to get started on my work. I did end up getting started. I ended up editing one of the podcasts that I filmed that I filmed the other day, which this one was a lot more enjoyable editing because it was more of a conversation. And I really enjoyed that. So I did that, and then I was going to go to the sauna. Ended up going and seeing the movie called The Killer. That dates this. It was a good movie. You want to anticipate, not improvise. That's why people that do sales and do these presentations and do all the things that we see, they're so good at it because they've done it so many times. And I can attest to this is because when I was doing sales calls, I would make so many sales calls that I was able to anticipate what that person was going to be saying next. I knew how to direct the conversation the way that it needed to be directed because I had so many of those conversations prior to getting on the phone with said person. So I had already had 1,000 under my belt, and when they get on the phone with me, that's the first time, maybe the second time, if somebody else had reached out to them beforehand, that they had heard the pitch, that they had heard the value, that they had heard what I was offering. And I had always believed that everybody just had heard it as many times as we had and has been practicing it. And then I started to think, it's just like, well, that's what makes car salesmen so good at their jobs, is because they're talking with people all day. Somebody goes and buys a car, they have no knowledge, they have no expertise, they have no understanding of how the car market works and how to actually buy a car because they probably didn't do any other research prior to actually going and buying the car. I had a friend of mine, who he was paying, I think, 7% on his car for the past 8 years because he didn't know that he could refinance it. And I always just assumed that, that was common knowledge. I don't know why I did. I did. I've assumed a lot of things have been common knowledge, that people know funnels, people know the marshmallow experiment, people know psychology, people understand how to open, people understand how to approach people, people understand how to exercise, people understand how to communicate, do yoga, meditate. And then I have to remember that I didn't necessarily know how to do those things at first, and then I acquired the skills. So if I was able to acquire the skills, then I can also teach other people and help other people acquire those exact same skills. Because work ethic, grit, determination, I think it's something that we all have within us. It just may take some time to flourish and grow and become what we need it to become. And that's why I'm going to start listening to the book Grit here next, I would say. And I might actually have it already, possibly. I'm going to check. I'll check that after we finish up here. But yeah, like, it's quite interesting to see the progress that one can make in a very short period of time when we actually decide and that's what we want to do. It has to come with that at first initial, like, this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm making the decision and I'm sticking to this decision. Like, I've made up my mind. And the movie talked about that too, is like his girlfriend, I would say, or maybe just friend. I'd say girlfriend, possibly wife. She just wanted to see him again. So she didn't break any rules. She didn't break any promises. She didn't spill any of his secrets because she wanted to see him again. And she made up her mind, even while they were torturing her and beating her, like, she wasn't going to spill a single word. Same thing happens in James Bond, the first one, Casino Royale, where he's tied to the chair, and I have a feeling that all of you have seen this, and you know I'm talking about right here. He's tied to the chair, and he had the conviction. He's like, I'm not going to give up Vesper. Vesper. I feel like it's Vesper. 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 Just doesn't sound right, but it's spelled right. He's like, I'm not going to give up Vesper. Yeah, Vesper. It just sounds not right, but she's absolutely gorgeous. Back to what I was saying. I was walking out in the snow just a minute ago before coming back in, so a little congested. That's why I got the tea. It's just interesting to see how quickly somebody can change, how quickly somebody can, like, just shift. Like, I've been able to shift away from watching Netflix and TV every single night. I've been able to shift away from playing video games all the time or watching anime as much as I have been. It's funny how when we change one small little thing and we make that decision, everything else just seems to become easier. And that's why I like the improvise with what I was just doing there. That was more of like an improvising thing. Like, I can anticipate the next thing that'll come, and I can anticipate the next thing that'll come because I've done it so many times, and it gets a lot easier the more we do it. The more we have these conversations, the more we have, like, we put ourselves in front of a camera and we start talking and realizing that there are other people listening. And I think I talked about this back on day 32 or something like that. Might have been 31. Where it's like, I'm talking to you guys. I'm not just talking to a camera. It's becoming a lot easier. I used to do a lot of journaling, and I think journaling does help tremendously because, like, I was just able to let my fingers flow. I think there's a lot of value in the spoken word as well. And that's where a lot of the growth I feel like has come from me personally, is by talking with other strangers, by talking with friends, by talking with family, by asking questions, by being inquisitive. And just following what I believe to be true. Like, allowing the conversation to go in whichever way it needs to go in, which has been tremendously helpful for me. So I'm excited to see where these next, what would that be? Next couple of days are going to be going. I'm excited. I'm very, very excited to see where these next couple of days will be heading, because we do have a lot's going to be happening. And I'll share this with you guys. I think at this point in time, I think you guys are ready for this, possibly. I'll say this. You may start to see and experience things that you have not experienced before. You might question it. It might be a little strange at first. The more it happens, the more you'll just kind of get used to it, and you'll be able to recognize it a lot easier. In the beginning, it's going to be like, I'm still like that too. Like where it's like, what? That just happened? Really? It just in the beginning it's so much fun, and it continues to be fun as we go. And I know there's a couple of people out there that do get that, and there's other people that you guys might not get that right now. That's okay. I've had to come to realize that everybody starts where they start. I started where I started, and I've been able to make it here. We started like you're starting where you're starting, and you'll be able to make it to wherever you want to make it, as long as you don't stop. If you stop, that's when you won't make it. Which I know you making it this far into day 77, I know that's not you. And I say this on these past like 5, 6, 7 days because I want you to understand. If you've made it this far, I know that you're not going to stop. I know that you have what it takes. I know you can make it happen. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have gone through day 1 all the way up to day 77. You would have given up halfway through. It's just we have something special that everybody can cultivate, as I was saying at the beginning. It's grit. Everybody can cultivate grit. Everybody can have that hard work that'll help them overcome any struggle. That's why, like, there's a military guy that I was talking to, and I need to remove essentially. All words with LY, you guys, remove them entirely. I was in the elevator with a guy at my apartment complex, and he's like, "Oh, did you serve?" And I was like, "No, not in the traditional sense. I did, quote, like military training of myself with like lifting gyms, being disciplined, riding the bike. Like I wasn't riding the bike all that much, but like I was doing kind of military training where it was like there's no TV, it's only books and the gym." Like, and meditation. Like that's all it was. And I was listening to this podcast or this interview, this lecture, this video today where he was talking about that exact same thing, where people that end up going into the military, typically they end up having a higher likelihood of success later, and they just feel more fulfilled. And it's like, it's kind of a funny, strange concept because like they're getting yelled at, they're getting beaten, like they're getting kind of like verbally abused. Like Goggins was one of them. David Goggins, you can look him up. And he kind of said that the reason for this is because they're trying to get you to leave. It's just you're the one that gets to decide. Like if you want to quit, you can toss the bag in at any time. Or you can continue to show up every single day, and then you'll become stronger. You'll be able to climb the mountains. You'll be able to have the conversations. You'll be able to talk to the women. You'll be able to make the friends and the money and anything that you want if you don't leave. And I've never left myself. I've lost myself. I've never left myself. Because I've always had that determination, that grit to help me get to where I needed to get to. Because I understood that as long as I keep moving, as long as I keep showing up, no matter what somebody says, no matter the words, the verbal abuse, the painful, lonely nights that I have, I will get to where I need to get to.